CBS News. In Dallas, Texas, 3 shots were fired at... Back to the... Without the camera, we can get a closer look at this picture.
Almost exactly 1 hour after his initial bulletin, this now famous announcement.
From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, some 38.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Perseverance Mindset Podcast. I am your host, as always, John Zadzura. We're coming to you live right here, again, from our famous Dialogue Den. And again, we want to welcome you to tonight's show. And also, today in an episode, we're going to be digging into stories that history forgot or those stories that history tried to bury. And today we're diving into the mysterious life and death of Gary Underhill, a man who, despite not being a formal CIA agent, found himself intertwined in one of the biggest political tragedies in American history, the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Again, for decades, Gary Underhill has been a figure surrounded in mystery, conspiracy, suspicion, and his alleged connections to the CIA, his sudden unexplained death, and his claims about the true events that behind JFK's assassination are just some of the pieces of this massive puzzle that we've been trying to put together for decades. And thanks to the latest release of the JFK files of over 80,000 files, we have new revelations that shed more light on this man's story. Let's dive in, starting with who Gary Underhill was and how he ended up being at the center of one of the most persistent conspiracy theories in American history. Now, we have to ask, who was Gary Underhill? A person that has been associated with the assassination for decades, years, months, conversations. To understand Gary Underhill, we need to go back to the early part of his life. Born in Brooklyn, New York in 1915, Underhill was a man of intellect and ambition. After graduated from Harvard University, Harvard grad, smart man, educated man, he found himself at the intersection of military intelligence and journalism. Interesting fields. In the years following the Second World War, Underhill became a military affairs editor for Life magazine, which was one of the most influential publications of that time period. During World War II, Underhill served in the U.S. Military Intelligence Division, where he was tasked with enemy weapons analysis. Post-World War II, enemy's weapons analysis, and photographic intelligence. Big fields today, again, even going on back then. These were very critical jobs, as the Army needed every advantage it could to get during the war. Underhill's expertise in reconnaissance, photography, and intelligence analysis set him apart in military circles. He was a very sought-after man for all the skills he had to offer. But what's important here is under the surface. Underhill's role wasn't just limited to his official duties. He maintained informal connection with various U.S. intelligence agencies, including the CIA's Domestic Contact Service, a division that gathered intelligence from U.S. civilians with access to foreign information. These connections would help shape him and play a critical role in the claims he made about President Kennedy's assassination and who he believes had more to do with it. So what exactly did Underhill know? And how did he get to the point of believing that the CIA had a hand in Kennedy's assassination, his death? Let's take a look at the events following JFK's assassination that led to basically Underhill to make explosive claims. Now, the actual assassination and Underhill's claims. November 22nd, 1963 was a day that changed history forever. Can't deny it. It happened long before I was born. President John F. Kennedy was shot and killed while riding on a motorcade through Dallas, Texas, as we heard when we started the episode. The official narrative that quickly emerged placed Lee Harvey Oswald as the lone gunman. But not everyone was convinced of that. Even then, leading up to this day, it's been shrouded in conspiracy. It's been shrouded in just American public needing to know more. Gary Underhill was one of those officials, those who was not satisfied with the official story, narrative, what was being put out. Soon after the assassination, and to this document we're going to put on the screen, Underhill began making claims to those close to him that he told them that the assassination was not the work of a lone gunman, but instead part of a larger conspiracy. He even went as far as the CIA there was a small clique inside the CIA that was responsible for orchestrating the whole thing, the whole assassination of President Kennedy. Underhill's alarming statements didn't stop there. He also began to fear for his own life. According to friends and colleagues, he believed the CIA might come after him to silence what he might do. Again, title of our episode is Gary Underhill, the man who knew too much. Now, he was reportedly paranoid, saying that he was being watched by government agents. And then in May 1964, just 6 months after John F. Kennedy's death, Gary Underhill was found dead in his Washington, D.C. apartment. The cause of death, a gunshot wound to the back of his head. The authorities ruled it as a suicide, but the timing of his death and his claims before it raised serious questions. Was Gary Underhill a whistleblower trying to expose that truth? Or was he a paranoid man whose fears got the best of him, leading to him to commit suicide? And more importantly, was his death really a suicide, or was there something more funny going on, more sinister behind it? These questions have remained unanswered for decades until this newest release of the JFK files. Now, before the JFK files were released, and little amounts had been being released over the years, but before these most recent JFK file releases, what did we know? Before the newest release, we knew much about Gary Underhill was speculative. Nothing was infinite. The details surrounding his involvement with intelligence agencies and the events leading up to his death were filled with ambiguity, but we did know a few key things. First, that Underhill had been part of U.S. military intelligence during World War II, and later he worked closely with CIA-connected sources through his work as a journalist, kind of commingling the two together. Underhill did have access to sensitive information about anti-Castro operations. He was particularly well-versed in covert U.S. efforts from U.S. government was conducting against Fidel Castro at the time during that Red Scare, the Cold War. Second, it was clear that Underhill had personal knowledge of the CIA's covert activities. He claimed that these activities extended into the assassination of President Kennedy, that it was a rogue faction within the CIA possibly playing a role. We knew that Underhill's death raised serious suspicions, the fact that he was found dead under mysterious circumstances, and the fact that his statements about the CIA's involvement in the JFK assassination echoed the theories of many others for decades. This raised the question, was he silenced because of what he knew? Did he truly know too much? But now, with the release of the documents from the Kennedy assassination, all these declassified documents, we have a new lens to look at all these allegations, all these conspiracies, again, which many of them turn out to be true. Now, concerning the new revelations of the documents that were released, we have one that we do want to put on the screen talking about Gary Underhill. And according to the new revelations that we have, the release of these new documents actually confirmed much of what was previously speculative, adding weight to Underhill's claims now being talked about. Now it's actually being factually backed up and opening up new questions. For starters, the documents confirm that Underhill had some degree of contact with CIA operatives. Even though he wasn't a formal agent of the CIA, he had access to individuals who were involved in sensitive CIA operations. Not official agent, but still having connections. A lot can still happen that way. He had access to individuals who were involved in the operations, particularly those related to anti-Castro Cuban activities. Underhill's work as a journalist gave him insider access, and his knowledge of covert operations likely made him a valuable asset to those intelligence agencies. You have an in on the inside of getting other sensitive information, connecting that with intelligence agencies. It's kind of gold, if you think about it, to these agencies. In addition, several new memos detailed about how Underhill allegedly spoke out about a CIA-led conspiracy to assassinate President Kennedy. Though many of these details are still redacted, it's clear that Underhill made significant claims about these individuals and the operations and what was perceived to be going on at the time. Perhaps most chillingly is the documents show that Underhill was under surveillance in the months leading up to his death. People were saying he was crazy for saying he was under surveillance, but he was under surveillance leading up to his death. This is something that wasn't publicly known before. Could the CIA have been watching him because he did know too much? While these new revelations don't provide definitive proof of a conspiracy, they do validate Underhill's fears and give his claims about the CIA's involvement in JFK's death a lot more credibility than they had before. And that you can take to the bank. A lot more credibility from just being allegations to backing up those allegations. Now, what do these files mean for the JFK case? In just having these 80,000 declassified documents out there on the National Archives website, with these new revelations in mind, we have to ask, What does this mean for the broader JFK assassination case? We've known that the official narrative is that Lee Harvey Oswald did it, lone gunman, book school depository, but it's riddled with questions. Underhill's claims have always been a part of a larger web of just theories, conspiracy theories, just background information suggesting that there was more to the assassination than meets the eye. His new connection to the CIA operatives and his claims of a CIA faction involved in the assassination now add real weight, significant evidence to back up these claims. And with these new files, also link Underhill's concerns to a broader CIA operations in Cuba, including Bay of Pigs invasion and the anti-Castro plots. Could these covert operations have led to Kennedy's death? Again, Bay of Pigs, massive failure, made Kennedy look bad, was being discussed of resigning over it, of how he made the country look and how that failure was a complete flop. And again, was Underhill trying to blow the whistle before he was silenced on what he knew could be leading up to this assassination? While the files didn't provide a smoking gun, they opened the door to more questions, not what everybody exactly wanted, but they add more questions and further this investigation that Underhill's case remains one of the most compelling and mysterious in the JFK assassination story, saga, journey, however you want to call it. As these files are released, perhaps we'll get closer to answering questions that have haunted us for 60 years. People have wondered for a lifetime, for decades, many of them not waiting and alive to see this day. So is the truth still out there, we have to ask? As we wrap up today's episode, it's clear that Gary Underhill's story isn't just about one man's life and death. It's a window into a tangled web of CIA operations, covert actions, factions inside agencies, and political intrigue that all surround the wider web of the JFK assassination. Through his death was ruled a homicide, Gary Underhill. The new JFK files have given us a reason to consider the whole conclusion that was already concluded by many commissions that have said to have studied the whole thing. But again, much of the American public has not seen this documentation, have not seen this evidence. Was Underhill silenced because of what he knew? Did he truly understand the depth of the conspiracy within the CIA? What else might still be hidden in the vaults of documents and other phone conversations that were deleted between Oswald and Russian authorities? But with the release of this new information, we're one step closer to uncovering the full truth. And we want to give thanks to President Trump for declassifying the documents to even give more transparency to what much of the American public has known for so long. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the life of Gary Underhill, the mysterious mystery surrounding JFK's assassination. Be sure to subscribe, like, follow us on Facebook, X, TikTok. And if you have thoughts and theories of your own, don't hesitate. Share them with us on here and on social media. So until next time, my perseverance pioneers, stay curious, stay skeptical, and always, always, always question everything. Have a great night.